When I was 9 years old, I learned a lot about life. I learned about the birds and the bees when my mom took me to our local drugstore and picked up a pregnancy test. Curled up on her lap in the kitchen of our yellow brick suburban Chicago home, she explained how the pea stick worked. The science and the secret of that stick made me love my soon-to-be little brother so intensely from that moment on. See, I was the first one to know that she was pregnant before my dad and even before my older sister. Many months later, the crib that had been waiting patiently came alive with receiving blankets and burp pads and cries in the night. My mom taught me how to change his diaper, carefully covering him so as not to get squirted, and how to hold him so his wobbly head was safe and secure. A few days later, I awoke to animal howls, screams. This was not the sound of my baby brother. I ran to find my mother alone in her bed, my dad on a business trip, holding her head and writhing in pain. I learned how to spell cerebral aneurysm when I was 9 years old. The hours, days, weeks that followed are a bit of a blank. But eventually, she came home and was recovering, and my brother was growing, and life eased its way back into a sense of normalcy. 12 years later, newly graduated from college and wildly in love, I moved to Tennessee with my fiance. Throughout the fall, my mom and I spent hours on the phone planning our wedding for the next summer. I was thrilled when she surprised us with a visit. She and my little brother drove the 9 hours from Chicago to spend the few days before Thanksgiving with us, since Dad was going to be away on a business trip. They arrived on Sunday night late, and we stayed up even later talking, just being together. The next morning, all four of us got up, got ready, jumped in the car, and headed out for a day of hiking in the Smoky Mountains. We never arrived. Within 15 minutes, my mom started acting odd. She said she had a bit of a headache, blamed it on sinuses, but I knew something was wrong. Pulling off into the grocery store parking lot, I felt the fear of a 9-year-old little girl fill my throat. I checked my mom's reflexes, her pupils, her hand strength, her speech. I knew it was another aneurysm rupturing. The hours, days, weeks that followed are a bit of a blur. Within 10 minutes, we arrived at the University of Tennessee Medical Center. Within 30 minutes, she was in a coma. Within 6 weeks, I was at her funeral with my loving fiance, my grieving dad, my broken-hearted sister, and my stunned little brother. But just as my mom had planned, I got married in my parents' backyard in Chicago 8 months later. Shortly after that, I had my annual doctor's appointment. Height, check. Weight, check. Blood pressure, check. Any changes in your medical history? Any changes in my medical history? Yes. And then silence. And then tears. And my mother's medical history became my medical history. And my ears buzzed angrily with the doctor's words of warning. Risk of cerebral aneurysm, no pregnancy after 30, if you want children. Of course I want children. I just hadn't planned on it so soon, just not yet. So at 23, newly married and grieving my own mom, we decided to start our family. But newlywed fun soon became a quest, which soon became loss and pain and surgery, and we quit trying. A year later, though, no drugs, no treatment, I knew I was pregnant. I had already gone through 4 pea sticks. My mother had taught me well. The black and white sketch on the ultrasound confirmed that it was not another ectopic pregnancy. Relief and happiness gently eased in until a phone call a couple weeks later. Something about my lab work was irregular. Driving back to the hospital, the same one in which I watched my mother lie in a coma, I pleaded with her, "Please, Mom, please. When I was 24, I learned a lot about life. Lying in that darkened ultrasound room, I learned about the birds and the bees and how one miraculous little baby can split and become two identical beating hearts.